Treat and consider all matters that shall come under the deliberation in so just and faithful a manner to promote your own glory and to advance the good of those whose interests you have committed to their charge.
Amen.
Amen.
Item number 2 on the paper, communication from the chair.
Honour members, I welcome you to this afternoon sitting, and I would just want to remind the committees that had items related to the bills on the order paper, which were deferred to next week, to work on them expeditiously so that we close the legislation chapter and concentrate on the budget process. Secondly, we have been looking at the report from the Equal Opportunities Commission in relation to compliance with the Certificate of Gender and Equity, and although some progress has been made, we still have to do more to achieve the objectives. For instance, in the agriculture sector, in the financial year 2018-2019, they were at 70%, but in the projections for 2019-2020, they are at 64%. Lands and housing was at 53%. The projections for 2019-2020, their compliance is at 32%. The energy sector, 63% in 2018-2019. They are projected to be at 45%. That's a drop. Legislature is also static. We have remained at 68%. I think we also need to do better. Works and transport was at 59%. Now it is reduced to 50%. Security has remained at 55%, both 2018-2019 and 2019-2020. Health sector from 73% to 70%. Public sector management, they have remained constant at 59%. Social development from 90 to 80%. So I want to invite the committees to take an interest in the issue of this certificate of gender equity so that we can improve the planning in this country. Thank you very much. Now there were just a few issues of national concern. Honorable Ogwal. Honorable Mutebinowa, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I raise on a matter of national importance. Madam Speaker, there is rampant accidents which are happening in one of my areas at a place particularly called Chankonwa. I want to appreciate that government has gone ahead to construct roads in this country, but when they were constructing Gulu Highway Road, there are places where they were reaching the trading centers and towns and widened the road and put parking reserves. But Madam Speaker, when you go to that place, there is no parking reserve. The road is very narrow and it has claimed a number of people's lives. Madam Speaker, there is a person called Kasada, died from a similar spot, Kaberuka, Otira, and others. Madam Speaker, there are also famous Ugandans like the late Honorable Francis Ayume, a former Speaker of this Parliament, also died on a similar spot. Madam Speaker, Honorable Odongoto, our brother here, got an accident recently at a similar place. Madam Speaker, this place has become a terrible place. My humble prayer, Madam Speaker, when I met my people of Chankonwa, requested me that when I come to Parliament, I present this issue to this House for guidance. Madam Speaker, I want to appeal to this House that UNRA go back and widen the road at that black spot. UNRA put a reserve parking in that trading center. And Madam Speaker, lastly, UNRA put humps at that spot and other mentioned trading centers and towns, which I mentioned last time here, beginning from Wobolenzi, There's a bad spot at a place called Chikoma. There's a market. There's a place called Balicheunya in Luwero. When you look, you go there and see when a bus gets stuck there one time, we shall get challenges. Madam Speaker, when you go to Kakoge, Katugo, Sasira, up to Mijera, we need those humps. I'm happy that they have put some humps around Bombo and another place called Janan Schools, but they have not accelerated to our place. My humble prayer is that they go up to where Nakasongola ends or where up to Guru, where those humps are needed. But this similar sport of Chankonwa be taken as a serious note because it has claimed a number of Ugandans' lives. I want to thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me the opportunity. Thank you.
I see the Minister of Works. I don't know whether he has any comment for now on this issue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable members, I do take note of the concerns by the honorable member. However, the issue of humps, we are doing it together with Minister of Works, together with the UNRWA. We have set up a team to revisit that issue because at one time, in another voice, people are complaining about the humps, especially on highways, that you're actually constructing a highway and then you're putting the humps, and some of the humps are not even well constructed. So what we are doing now is for that we are setting up a team to revisit even what kind of humps, if they are necessary, what kind of humps do we put on the roads. So that will come once we do that, and then we shall revisit those bad spots and the dangerous spots and do the improvement countrywide, not only just on that road. But also, I'd also want to appeal to members and also the public that we need also to be more disciplined on the roads. Most of the accidents, really, we are complaining of the narrow roads. These roads are not going to widen tomorrow. Definitely, we can't say we are going to widen the roads tomorrow, but even on the wider roads, people are still getting accidents. So there's an element of discipline on the roads. We also need to be disciplined and control how we behave on the roads to avoid the accidents. We call for Fika Salama, but Fika Salama cannot be everywhere. We shouldn't have a policeman breathing behind our neck every time for us to have discipline on the road. So I would still call upon public and all of us to also behave well on the road. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Now, Honourable members, in the public gallery, we have members of the public who are here to attend the Parliament Week. So you'll be seeing groups of people coming, and we welcome them. Secondly, Honourable members, one of the commitments we made during the Parliament Week is that we are going to plant 1 million trees across the country to reforest and protect the environment. We started in Moroto last year, and we are going to plant 20 acres in Namamve. So we are inviting donations from the members and the staff and all our friends. There is a tent in the south wing parking lot. Please contribute so that we can support the environment in the country. Honorable Gwal, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to raise a matter of national importance. And before I do that, I'm sure members can see me dressed up in the uniform, which symbolizes that this is a week dedicated to Parliament of Uganda. And we are having so many stalls which will give you details of what each and every department in Parliament is doing. So I would have expected all of you to appear like this at least once this week, Right Honorable Speaker. But Right Honorable Speaker, the reason why I have decided to raise a matter of national importance is because the Prime Minister responded to several questions raised by members concerning age cutoff point for the members of our community who are supposed to benefit from SEG. And we particularly from northern Uganda, I've been very concerned that to have a cutoff point of 80 and lift it from 65 would be disadvantaging our people. Recently, I held a Christmas festivity with old people. And when you see a woman of 69 years, she cannot even walk. And Right Honorable Speaker, the reality of the situation is that when you reach advanced age, you are attacked by high blood pressure. The people in rural areas don't know they have high blood pressure. They are attacked by diabetes. They don't know they have diabetes. So by the time they reach 70, they are really disabled. So I do not know the rationale the government had to have a cutoff point of 80 instead of 65. Maybe I'm crying because I come from the north and I have seen with my own eyes how the people who are lower, who are younger than 80 years are suffering. I'm sure this is happening all over the country. So Right Honorable Speaker, we still want a justification. We cannot have two sets of the community. One community being paid at the age of 65 and the
No, Honorable, are you saying that there are different measures for different parts of the country?
Yes,
are you sure?
yes, Right Honorable Speaker. Recently, an official of the Ministry of Gender put in the newspaper and said the government has decided that the cutoff point is now 80 years. And they continued by saying that those who started as a pilot will continue at 65. And that only the Karamojong region will have 65 cutoff points. So my concern is, can we as a parliament allow that kind of disparity to be practiced upon our people? And secondly, what is the rationale of lifting the age from 65 to 80, which puts our people in a worse situation? That's my concern, Right Honorable Speaker.
I don't know what, there's nobody on the floor. I don't know whether the Minister of Finance can explain, or you want the Minister for Gender to please tell us why you are discriminating. And last session we rejected discrimination here in the education sector. We rejected discrimination last year. So tell us.
Madam Speaker and honorable colleagues, this matter has been discussed in this House for, I think, 4 times. And we're resolving this issue every other time. And the last time we were discussing, I don't remember whether Honorable Cecilia Ogwaro was in the House, and you were here. The issue is resources to roll out the program. So we
what we have discussed was universal coverage. We have not discussed differentiation in regions. That's our concern.
No, the issue is, first and foremost, Honorable Speaker, is resources. We have been paying the elderly up to the age of 65, but this was piloted in a number of districts. So members said, and I think under your directive, that this program must be rolled out to the entire country. So when this matter was sent to the committee, we had different scenarios. If we are to roll it out to the entire country, we need over 300 billion at the age of 65. The other scenario was if we increase the age to 80, we would be able to roll it out below 100 billion. So this matter came to the House, and we built consensus over it and said, let us roll it out to the entire country, but raise the age limit. That's what we agreed in this House. Yeah. So the matter will be coming again during the debate of the ministerial policy statement. We can maybe make another resolution. But as we stand now, you want information? Yeah. Okay.
The Right Honorable Speaker, thank you for thank you for this opportunity, and I thank my friend for giving me way. The Right Honorable Speaker, I had the opportunity to discuss this matter on NTV, and it is very true, as the Honorable Minister stated, that A committee reported to this house, a resolution was made, and the target was to have it roll out throughout the country. Their reasoning was that because of that over 500 and something currently required, if it is put at 80, cap at 80, it will bring that the cost to about 142, if I remember now, billion. The issue of the discrepancy, which honorable colleague raised, that in some parts they're going to be at 80, in other parts it's going to be at 65, is also because, and this is the information, because in areas where the pilot was already there, in the 57 districts where this old age grant was already being given, they decided that it will remain like that without taking those who are already on benefit. But the areas where they were expanding to is where, moving forward from that resolution, they were now going to go to 80 years and above. The Right Honorable Speaker, there's a problem, as the Honorable Cecilia Ogal put it, that from the statistics we know, and I did some work in Agago, you find in most of the sub-counties now, people above 80 are even hard to get. If you're going to go 80 and above, you're going to get people who are in urban centers where there's some sort of standard of living in Kampala, in what. So in most of the areas that are rural, it at 80.
No, honorable member. I saw one day a lady of 103 in Karamoja who was being ridden in a wheelbarrow. She had collected her money, 103 in Karamoja. But now, honorable members, if this is a resolution of this House taken in this session, we cannot debate this matter again. No. If it was taken, a decision was taken on this matter in this session, we cannot come back to it until the new session. So we cannot debate it. Thank you. Next item.
Item 3.
Okay, if it hasn't been rolled out, let's wait for the budget. Let's look at the policy statement, then we can come back to it.
Item 3. Response by the Leader of the Opposition, the National Budget Framework Paper for the financial years 2019-2020 to 2023-2024.
All right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members.
Yes. Oh.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, unfortunately...
But how did you jump in?
The procedure I'm raising, Madam Speaker, I'd come to your office for also a matter of national importance. And I saw my name not being mentioned, and I think that was the real procedure I wanted to find out.
I don't think it was you.
Who was that? Oh.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm raising a matter of national importance. There are many public servants outside here who are suffering on account of interdictions. Many are interdicted, and the standing orders, public service standing orders, talks about once a person is interdicted, it has to be on interdiction, he or she, for not more than 6 months. But we have seen many Ugandans who are on interdiction more than that period. I have two cases here. One case in point, Mr. Apollo Kazungu, Commissioner of Refugees, was interdicted in February last year. He has been on interdiction up to now. There are reports of investigation which cleared him. Solicitor General wrote that he should be reinstated. Up to now, he is not reinstated. Another person, Mr. Sasaga Godfrey Wanzira, Director, Citizenship and Immigration Control, Directorate of Immigration, Citizenship and Immigration, Minister of Internal Affairs. He was interdicted last year, February 23rd, purportedly on account that it was a directive from the president.
One minute.
Investigation have been going on. I'm reliably informed that the report, IGG's report is out, has been exonerated. But before the interdiction can be lifted, we had media reports that his position has been occupied by an army officer. So, Madam Speaker, I want the minister to tell this House. Last week, the Deputy Speaker raised the issue of equity in this House. Information on another.
On another information.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I want to thank Honorable Mudim for that matter of national importance. Madam Speaker, public service was formed in 1947. And the purpose was for remuneration and making sure that public servants are treated fairly. And the appointing authority under Article 172 is the President or any service commission or an authority delegated with that function. But Madam Speaker, it is very interesting. If you hear the names of people in interdiction for more than 1 year, either from Eastern Uganda or Northern Uganda, and partly of Uganda. But for those in Western Uganda, if they're interdicted for 1 week, next week they're back in what? Office. And Honorable Madam Speaker, if you are talking about the Zongaria, you will talk of Gubi, you will talk of Kumu Nelson, those are from the other region. But mention for me Westerners who have been interdicted, point of order rejected.
Point of order.
Is it in order for the Honorable Nandala to tribalize an issue of this nature when actually, well, when you talk about the North and East, everybody knows what you're talking about. When actually it is not true, and we have evidence that even people from other regions, if you take an example of the Internal Affairs Ministry, Anthony Namara and his boss were both interdicted. Namara is from the East, from the West. Sasaga is from the East. Is in order to tribalize an important issue like this in this important house?
You know, you should make wide allegations. Can you substantiate?
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. You have seen the inquiry in Kosase. The Governor Bank of Uganda, Bagenda, if they were from East or North, they would have been suspended. But because they are from that region, they are still in what? Offices. Madam Speaker, if you're talking of Namara, out of the 7 people who were suspended, it's only Namara from the west. The remaining 6 are from, and J.J. Odongo, who is the minister from Eastern Uganda, has sat on even on his people because he wants to please one appointing authority, and we can imagine. So, Madam Speaker, this matter is very serious, and the earlier we did this opportunity, the better for all of us.
Order, Madam. Point of order, Honorable Odongo.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank Honorable Mafabi Nandala for raising this matter, but I would like to inquire whether it's in order to insinuate that I am deliberately sitting on a matter that concerns people from the East, because I should have done otherwise because I come from the East.
Honorable Nandala, substantiate if you have information. If you don't, withdraw.
Madam Speaker, I'm not going to withdraw. The Inspector General of Government has handed over a report about this inquiry. The minister, instead of acting, he's sitting on it. And he knows the date when he got the report. And it is very unfortunate that you are sitting on a report where you should act. If I'm lying, don't you have the report from IGG?
Thank you, thank you, Honorable Nandala, for information. My prayers are, one, ministers responsible should inform the House why it has taken so long, and the two, those people be reinstated to their position.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I would like to thank the honorable colleague for raising the matter of interdiction of officials from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It is true, 2 officers, the Director of Immigration and the Commissioner of Immigration, were interdicted around April last year. I did take the liberty and the responsibility at the minister responsible to request the Inspector General of Government to carry out an investigation to establish whether the circumstances and the grounds for interdiction could stand and what course of action would be taken. November last year, it is true, I received a report from the Inspector General of Government responding to my request. Upon receipt of that report, I wrote to the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Internal Affairs, directing him, 1, to take appropriate action on the report because there were 2 items that were of interest. 1 of clearance and 1 pointing out additional inquiry necessary for one of the officers. So that is the situation as is in relation to Mr. Sasaga Joffre, Director, Immigration and Citizenship, and Mr. Anthony Namara, the Commissioner, Immigration. Later on, last year, in November, again, 3 officers were interdicted. The Acting Director of Immigration and Citizenship, Mrs. Ekwang Ali, the Commissioner for Passport Control, Mr. Ngodia, and a Principal Immigration Officer, Mr. Jaberi Malay. Their case was in relation to an allegation of inappropriate conduct vis-a-vis the public service orders. Their matter, too, was presented to the Inspector General of Government for investigations. I have not yet received a report, although I have had occasion to go and request that that matter be handled expeditiously. So that is the situation. I am not sitting on any report. I have received the one concerning the two officers. I have processed it, and appropriate officers to handle it is being done. Two, the matter of military officers being appointed to replace the officers who have been interdicted.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The procedure issue I want to raise, that the minister got a report from the IGG, and the IGG said he wants to continue, that there is a point which needs to be investigated. Now, I thought the report you sent, a request, and you expected a report. Can the IGG again say you need to investigate, yet the IGG was the one responsible for investigation? Madam Speaker, is it procedure right that the minister comes here and says the IGG has requested him or herself to again investigate a matter, yet the person had been told to investigate? And two, is it procedure right for the same minister not to talk about Kazungu, because he is now in charge of Kazungu and investigation, the way I see him? Is it?
Now, Honourable Minister, I don't know whether you're suggesting that the report you got is an interim report, and the IG was now to continue to make the final report.
Madam Speaker, the IGG did not give an interim report. But in that report, which the IGG gave, she indicated that this matter, this is the outcome. On this matter, we have discovered there is this matter yet to be concluded. Because the matter of financial inappropriateness in conduct is the matter the Inspector General of Government said, I need to conclude on this one. But the others, this is the report I have concluded. On the matter of military officers being appointed, it is true, I am aware that names have been forwarded to the Public Service Commission for interviews. I do not interview these officers. So I am waiting to be informed by the public service that the following officers whose names were forwarded to me have been interviewed, and we are forwarding them for appointment. As of now, I am not yet in receipt of that information.
Now, honour members, that was for internal affairs. We still want, Honourable Mudimi said that in respect to Apollo Kazungu, the Solicitor General said he should return to his office. He has also spent more than 6 months. It's actually coming to a year. Yes, and also the Prime Minister, and he was cleared. So it seems that the standing orders are asleep, or they have been sent to sleep by the government.
Madam Speaker, it is true that the Office of the Prime Minister has received reports from all the investigating authorities. But as you know, the matter of refugee responses involves so many stakeholders. We are doing further consultations, but within a short time, the matter will be resolved. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
comes up, join me in welcoming a delegation from the Parliament of Ghana, Table Office. Up there, Mr. Frank Sediaba, the Assistant Clerk, you're welcome. Mr. Joseph Amonda, Assistant Clerk, and Mr. Paul Baka, Assistant Clerk. Maybe Baka has a relative in Uganda, because we have the name here. You're welcome. Honorable Carter.
Yeah, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Mudimi and Honorable Nandala for bringing this forward. Right Honorable Speaker, these are just few indicators, but there are so many interdictions in abeyance beyond the statutory requirement. Would it be procedural right to actually ask the Minister for Public Service to bring us a comprehensive report on all interdictions which are in abeyance, so that this House gets to know precisely, because, Right Honorable Speaker, we have issues of governance, especially with the multi-sectoral ministries like Ministry of Internal Affairs, where you find a sector, a department within the same sector is very autonomous or semi-autonomous. We have issues with governance in the enterprises. Right Honorable Speaker, just to conclude, look at Bank of Uganda. You have the governor is even the board of governors, is the board chairman. At the same time, he's supposed to report to himself. When you go to the governance issue inside there, the Department of CID Police, which was for Bank of Uganda, has been disbanded. And then a few guys who are security bodyguards of the governor now act as they're performing the job of a CID department. So the governance issues in this country are bypassing all the laws, even the standing orders and so on, and so many people are suffering injustice. Right Honorable Speaker, somebody's son and daughter has studied through the hustles, has climbed the ladders of employment, promotions, and, being frustrated deliberately because somebody has vested interest. Right Honorable Speaker, it really goes to the core of our conscience. Would it be procedural right that the Minister for Public Service brings for us comprehensive report on all interdictions so that we know which ones have overstayed and for what reason, and the injustices, and we address them once and for all. Thank you.
Minister of Public Service? Let's have the Minister of Public Service.
Thank you, Right.
Maybe Minister, I think there are two members who want to raise issues. Honorable Kiza and Kenneth Magusho Maurice, quickly. Oh.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I heard the Minister of Internal Affairs saying there is a communication seconding names of officers to take up the offices of the people on interdiction. I just would like to know what the provision of standing orders provide in this circumstance, that when someone is on interdiction, before they are even heard, before their matters are concluded, you even replace them? Does it therefore mean that you have already suspended them or even sacked them? Before you even conclude on the matter, I'm already replaced. Do these officers still have a way forward in as far as this department is concerned? I just wanted to know what the standing orders provide in such a circumstance where an officer is on interdiction. Is the officer replaced or someone can just act in that position? Let me be clarified on that.
Honorable Mangusho Kibalia, Mutonyi, then...
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, to elucidate on the same point, people are interdicted to allow space for investigation to find out whether actually they are culpable for whatever has been alleged against them or whether they are innocent people. Right Honorable Speaker, for the people or the department to forward names, it means these people have already been adjudged as guilty. They have been condemned already. And now we have information that has been given to us that some of these people actually have been exonerated in these reports of investigations. then what would be the basis for their position is being forwarded for interviews? So I'm seeking to know whether the orders are still working, whether the laws are still working, whether the statement by Honorable Nandala that there are some people being favored is actually true. Otherwise, what would be the basis for taking up positions of people going for interviews for positions of individuals who have been interdicted and have not yet been decided, or decision has not been taken to decide, for them to vacate their positions? Thank you.
Mangusho, very quickly. Kibalia Mongoma Mutonyi.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, the issue raised by the Honourable Mudimi is actually to do with the equality before the law. If somebody has been interdicted and say, for example, now more than 1 year, actually it is something that shows that the law is not being applied equally to the rest of the Ugandans, and yet all of us must be equal before the law. When you find public concerns like this one, then it means there is something wrong. First of all, after the investigation, what has happened? There is no action. Then also the silent recruitment that is taking place. So why we are complaining is that people, the public service standing orders must be applied to these people, because if they made a crime or whatever, have they been taken before the courts of law? Have they been terminated, or what is it? Because 6 months interdiction is always the maximum for a public officer. Otherwise, the next action must have been taken, either disciplinary or the officer is terminated. So it is a concern by the people. We have had these complaints, and when you hear corridors of in the streets, people talking about an issue of a public officer, then you know there is something wrong. So we want all Ugandans to access equality before the law. That is my concern. Thank you.
Kibalia, 1 minute, Mungoma.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, it's great that Honourable Mudimi and Honourable Nandala brought this issue. There is something even beyond overstaying on interdiction, Madam Speaker. There is a group of people, either comes from the office of the Inspector General of Government or somewhere, that after somebody has been interdicted or even terminated, they go and arrest that person. I do. Whoever wants evidence, I cannot stand to raise something I don't have evidence. See? They go and arrest that person, torture that person, and there are 2 cases, Madam Speaker, that I know. They arrested the people, tortured them, picked some few things from them that they are still investigating this and the other, not identified clearly, but they were saying we are from the office of the Inspector General of Government. So, Madam Speaker, as we say the Minister for Public Services is going either to give us a list of those that have been interdicted or something, as Parliament, we need to interest ourselves in this and do something beyond there so that we can move to the deeper route.
Mungoma.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, from what the Minister has just presented, to me, I feel Sasaga was intentionally sacked so that the minister can repress his other people. Because he has just put it very clearly, they have not finished the investigations. Sasaga is still battling with his issues. The minister has gone ahead to replace him. Number 2, Madam Speaker, there are a lot of issues surrounding the Public Service Commission, the Minister of Public Service, I mean to say. Madam Speaker, I would request kindly that an audit is taken in the Ministry of Public Service. We know exactly who are the people occupying these offices and where they come from, because you...
Honourable members, there is a report by the Equal Opportunities Commission. It makes very interesting reading. And I think one of these days we should debate it. Very interesting reading. Honorable Mutonyi, Wamai, and then Karuvanga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Oh, honor members, honor Damzungu, I forgot to welcome you back. Honor members, just join me welcoming our colleague, Honorable Damzungu, who has been sick. Welcome, welcome back.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also wanted to comment about the standing orders as to whether Ministry of Internal Affairs is following the standing orders to have somebody replaced before the investigations are over. The minister himself contradicted himself when Honorable Mafabi asked him whether the report of the IGG was completed or it was an interim report. He said, yes, it is complete. Later on, he said that they investigated, they brought the report, but then they said there were some issues still pending. Now, but interviews are going on. Surely, is it fair? Is it human for people to be put aside? Then the IGG investigates and they say it is half done, but there are also other issues to be investigated, and behind there are interviews going on. So can the minister explain? Was the report completed? Did it say interviews can take place, or something else is going on behind everybody's back?
Now, am I then, Honorable Karuvanga?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Office of Ombudsman was started to help civil servants, those who are being victimized. In this case, Mr. Namara and Mr. Sasaga, and the rest. And the IGG carried out an investigation, Mr. Minister, and gave a report. And in that report, you raised two issues: clearance and an inquiry. And you directed your permanent secretary since November. Have you asked the permanent secretary to bring forward the report? Secondly, you go ahead and submit names to be verified and recruited in the ministry. Did you advertise these posts in the newspapers, or you are just given names recruiting the service?
No, please conclude. You know we have other work.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when there are vacant positions in ministries, they are submitted to the Public Service Commission. And these posts are advertised in the papers for those who qualify to apply. But Mr. Minister, you have gone ahead to try to fill these positions because the verdict of the officers before it's taken, so one can see that there's something unfair being done to the civil servants, which is not proper at all. Ombudsman, according to the Scandinavian system, Honorable Zindana came here to help Ugandans, and Honorable Muriagonja is doing a great job. So please don't victimize the innocent people. If there's a case, then it should have been pointed out. But somebody being on interdiction for more than 6 months is very unfair, Mr. Minister.
Minister of Public Service.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. It is true that the public service is governed by the Public Service Standing Orders, and we have interdictions. By nature of the offenses, every case is unique. What is provided for in the Public Service Standing Orders is that you are supposed to be are interdicted for 60 days, and during that time, you are on half pay. And it was presumed that within the 60 days, the investigations should be conclusive. However, there are some cases which are very complex in nature, especially involving fraud. So this necessitates extension of investigations so that you can come up with a conclusive nature, especially when you have the IGG, because we've had cases even taking 2 years. So, Right Honorable Speaker, under such circumstances where you have complex cases, the period of interdiction is, it goes beyond the 60 days provided for.
No.
The 6 months provided for. So, the whole idea is you should be away not until the investigations are done and concluded. Because if you come back, you may jeopardize with the investigations.
Minister, I know a little about this young man called Apollo Kazungu. He has, apart from being told to report to the police, nothing else has happened. Every month he reports to the police. Every month. I think there's even no intention to take a statement or to try him. The United Nations did their investigations and exonerated him. So the Surgeon General said, let him go back to work. Silence. Silence from the PS, silence from the Prime Minister. Life goes on, and soon we shall hear that the new
Right Honorable Speaker, I think the case of Mr. Kazungu is one of those complex ones, because there would be no reason as to why an officer would be kept on interdiction. Indeed, when a conclusion is made, officers are taken back. So I think that case must be one of those complex ones. There must be still...
Point of order. Order.
Honour Minister, in that case, come on Tuesday and tell us the complexity of those cases here. Yeah. Yes, come and tell us the complexity here on the floor.
Procedure. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it has become a syndrome by some players in government to interdict people continuously, like you've said. Madam Speaker, my request in tandem with yours is to request the Minister in charge of public service to come up here and present how many persons or public officers are under interdiction and the status of their interdictions, so that we can come up with a comprehensive discussion touching the matters, because they are in their 20s or 30s in form of number. So if you can give us a clear number, giving us the status, so that these people can know that they also have been heard and something is taking place, or something serious about their cases is being done. That would be fair.
Madam Speaker, most obliged for your ruling on detailed information. However, I wanted to add that every vote has a rewards and sanction committee. It's not entirely the means of public service responsible, because really we can't be everywhere. We have decentralization. We have votes managing their HR. So every vote has its own rewards and sanction committee. I also wanted to clear the perception raised by some members about the central appointing commissions. I've heard from some colleagues that recruitment is not transparent. What I can say is that these central appointing committees, commissions carry out their recruitment process in the most transparent way. So we should not really trivialize this issue. The appointing commissions do their work in the most transparent manner.
Were these jobs advertised? Were they advertised? Did those applicants respond to an advert?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I am requesting for some time to look at the particular jobs so that I can come and give further clarification at a later date.
Okay, we expect your answer on Tuesday. Next item. Item 3.
Item 3, response by the Leader of the Opposition on the National Budget Framework Paper for the financial years 2019-2020 to 2023-2024.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Right, Honorable Speaker and Honorable Members. This is a response from the opposition in respect of the National Budget Framework Paper for financial year 2019-2020. It's already uploaded on your iPads, and I will just do a summary of it. This particular response is brought under the provisions of Rule 52 of our Rules of Procedure, read together with Sections 6(2) and 4 of the Administration of Parliament Act. Our response touches the issues of economic growth, and we do point out that although the GDP growth is shown to be at 6.2% in the next financial year, this coupled with the rising inflation, the soaring poverty levels among our people, the widening income gap, the escalating unemployment, the depreciation of the Ugandan shilling, and the soaring national indebtedness shows that the economic growth being hyped is actually not growth in the people's pockets. We also touch the issue of the middle income status. We notice that yes, considerable effort has been undertaken to develop physical and institutional infrastructure, but there has been little effort geared towards empowering the citizens to economically utilize the infrastructure, and that this will in a way constrain the attainment of the middle income status. We are looking at the current poverty rate at 27% as against the middle income target of 14%, and in a view of the high levels of corruption, the ineffective utilization of borrowed funds, the inadequate planning, among others, will make it impossible for this country to attain the middle income status in the projected period of time. We are also looking at misalignment of the development budget and programs, and we have shown in our response how out of the 135 ministries, departments, and agencies of government, only 89 have had their development plans aligned to the National Development Plan, and 18 of these had unaligned plans, 18 had draft plans, and 10 had no plans at all. So this is an area, honorable members, we need you to interest yourselves to see how we misalign our objectives. The national budget framework indicators also have been considered by the opposition, and we note that the national budget framework paper does not comply with Section 9, subsection 4 of the Public Finance Management Act, and as far as it is silent on key areas and which should be giving us real information. And these areas are the rate of employment and unemployment, the interest rates, the money supply, the petroleum revenue fund, the ceiling of the total budget funding from the petroleum revenue holding account, and the alternate fiscal framework. It is accordingly difficult for this House to track our past recommendations since the government has never laid before this August House a national budget framework paper duly approved. We have also considered the resource envelope, and we have noticed that of the proposed budget with an estimated population of 39 million people, only 10.9 trillion of the proposed budget will be available for non-wage service delivery. And if you compute, you allocate this to the population of Uganda, it means each Ugandan expects to only receive a sum of 281,541 for drugs, medical equipment, water, scholastic materials, and others. And of course, when you look at the hemorrhage in the government, in the terms of the loan repayments, the interests, the arrears, the domestic refinancing, including the money that is stolen, you will realize that the resource envelope available and the money available for service delivery is almost not there. And we have shown in the terms of the matrix, which you will read on your iPads. We have also touched the area of misrepresentation of allocations, and we note that the allocations to various sectors in the sum of 25.5 trillion, translating into 75% of the total proposed national budget of 34.3 trillion, does not reflect the true budget share allocation and gives a wrong reflection, particularly on our debt obligations. We have established in our research that the debt obligations, particularly interest payments, the external loan repayments, and what is normally termed as domestic refinancing, which will be due in this financial year, will amount to 9.5 trillion, which translates into 27.9% of the proposed national budget. And as you may realize, this particular debt obligation takes a huge chunk of the money that would ordinarily go into service delivery. And we have shown a table on how the allocations are made and the share for each sector vis-a-vis the national budget. We have also noticed a decline in the concessional financing. Honorable members, and especially the Committee on National Economy that ordinarily receives requests for loans. The financial and economic crisis that affected most of the developed world in 2008-2009 financial year and the budget constraints in the donor countries, concessional financing has gradually declined, making it harder for countries such as Uganda to finance their infrastructure development projects. As such, our government is increasingly relying on non-concessional loans and budget deficit borrowing through commercial banks, and the majority being, of course, foreign-owned with high risk of profit repatriation to realize its ambitious spending plans. So the increasing non-concessional nature of the new debt increases Uganda's debt service obligations in the present and in the near future. And they do not satisfy the public debt management framework. So we do recommend, honorable members, that government needs to resort largely to non-concessional borrowing needs to be resorted only to in respect of value addition projects with a high social or the social economic impact return, such as agro-processing industries, cold chain facilities, as well as development of strategic tourism sites. Efforts should be pressed at the maintenance of the developed physical infrastructures as more funds are geared towards revamping the primary growth sectors. And furthermore, a public debt repayment schedule needs to be developed and published to guide the debt management in Uganda. Our response also looks at the resource mobilization, and we note that our tax per capita is gradually, yes, increasing, but at the same time, the poverty levels are escalating and the borrowing rates are high. So with the tax revenue of 14 trillion in the financial year 2017-2018 and an estimated population of 39 million people, our tax per capita is estimated at 361,000 shillings. So the increasing reliance on external financing to complement domestic revenues worsens the current account deficits, the balance of payment, and macroeconomic instability. It is worrying to note that tax areas so far exceed the new tax policy measures, and for instance, the tax policy measures adopted in the last financial year yielded 212.9 billion as compared to tax areas of 2.6 trillion in the same period. So the tax areas for financial year 2017-2018 are greater than all the proposed sectoral budgets, apart from, of course, education, interest payments, works, and transport. So it's a concern and an area that all members we need to take critical examination on the issue of tax areas, and accordingly, we do propose as the opposition that we develop a stringent law, not only on campaign financing, so as to abate the leverage and influence of a tax policy by political and economic elites, who through business associations and lobbying groups obtain preferential tax treatment and obtain political oppositions or finance political parties, and that all tax proposals and projected revenue that would accrue from them should be explicitly indicated in the budget framework paper so as to be approved as tax measures. We also look at the gender and equity responsiveness. We do realize that the national budget framework paper was assessed to be compliant by 61%, but the certificate indicated does not specify the measures undertaken to equalize opportunities for women, persons with disabilities, and other marginalized groups. And we notice that this contravenes Section 9, subsection 6B of the Public Finance Management Act. We note that the failure to articulate improvement measures points to lack of systematic assessment of gender and equity concerning the country, as well as lack of clear reporting benchmarks. And these undermine the essence of the certificate of gender and equity responsiveness. We do recommend a need to undertake national gender and equity gap mapping to guide budgeting and assessment by the Equal Opportunities Commission, so that the sectors are guided in addressing gaps that have been identified and facilitate better impact assessment. We give recommendations on the assessment report and what should be provided. One, constitutional imperatives, especially on expenditures to marginalized groups, the vulnerable, the least developed areas, and the social protection, especially for the elderly, among others. We also recommend on the gender-specific expenditures, particular allocations to programs and projects that are specifically targeted to issues affecting specific groups of women, youth, especially the Uganda Women Entrepreneurship Program, the Youth Livelihood Program, the Uganda Reproductive, Maternal, and Child Health Services, among others. We also look at the issue of equal employment opportunity expenditures, programs and projects that promote equal representation in the management and decision-making across all occupational sectors, as well as occupational conditions, including the matter we've just been discussing on public service. We also recommend mainstreaming the budget expenditures of government so that the entire community is served equally. We have also looked at contradictions in the sector priorities and the key
sectors we have identified is the Ministry of Agriculture, the agricultural sector. We notice that although there has been a proposal to increase the availability of funds for extension workers, which we commend, however, this single spine extension system is operating below the optimum capacity, because so far, only 3,257, which represents 65.1% extension workers have been recruited against a target of 5,000. And if we are to maintain this capacity of 3,257 extension workers, then it would mean a total of 25.5 billion will be and is distributed equal among the extension workers. Each will only be allocated 7.8 million a year, or 653,617 per month. And we do find that this is inadequate to equip extension workers with means of transport and fuel. As a matter of fact, 88% of the budget, amounting to 22.3 billion, is meant for the project on agroeconomic impact depending in the Albertine Basin. So the largest part of the budget is targeted for the Albertine Basin and not the entire country. Hence, the impact of the extension services will not be actualized in the greatest parts of the country. We have also addressed the issue of the Uganda National Oil Company. We notice that the government indicates that the Uganda National Oil Company will be financed to realize its equity contribution to the development of the refinery, the pipeline, and petroleum storage terminal. However, the budget allocations have remained at 15.2 billion, as was the case in the financial year 2018-2019. And going by this fact, it means the undertaking by government is in vain, because when you look at the financial requirements for the Uganda National Oil Company to engage in these projects, almost over 100 million US dollars would be required. This, compared with the 15 billion allocated, is too inadequate for it to participate. And the impact is, it would actually mean that the Uganda National Oil Company will not have the resources to participate in these projects, and that will leave the projects in the hands of the foreign companies, which will have the financial muscle. And at the end of the day, the repatriation of the profits and the like will continue. We have also looked, in respect of the sector for energy, at sino mining. We notice that there is a huge contribution made by the artisanal miners, but they also undergo a lot of risks when carrying out their business and trade. But the government has given inadequate attention to this particular part of the economy, and we do look at the budget proposals, and we found that a sum of 2.5 billion will be allocated for mineral beneficiation centers, 650 million for field vehicles, 174 million for office equipment, and 1.4 billion for lab and exploration equipment. And with these financial requirements, it becomes difficult to know how much of it will be targeting the artisanal miners. We would recommend that the government puts up a mechanism not only to identify and register them, but also help them to form cooperative societies and increase their regulation in order to be catered for in respect of occupational safety, market access, negotiation with companies, among others. We have also looked at the question of market access for our goods manufactured here in Uganda, and we do commend the government's effort, yes, to support the private sector. However, we have noted that for many years, Uganda as a country has defaulted in subscribing to the organizations where our goods would have their access. We found in our research that a sum of $2.8 million, equivalent to 10 billion, has accrued as a contribution to the COMESA Secretariat, the COMESA Court of Justice, and the Leather Institute. And Uganda has over the years also defaulted on subscriptions to other international organizations such as the PTA Bank, the East African Development Bank, the African Bank, among others. And we are quoting authorities for these findings and the observations. And we do find that these defaults make our access to specific markets inadequate and at times impossible, especially the COMESA. We have also looked at the issue of the enhanced pay for civil servants. Government indicates in the budget framework paper that it intends to enhance the pay of public servants so as to improve their morale and subsequently service delivery. However, honourable members, you will note that there has been no additional allocations in financial year 2019-2020 for the wage bill has been maintained at the same level as in financial year 2018-2019 at 4.24 trillion. So it is therefore not possible for government to claim that it is going to enhance pay to civil servants when the wage bill remains the same. We have looked at critical areas that need alternative priorities. We are recommending a reform in the education system, and you will read how our proposal is on the education system. We have also looked critically at competition regulation. Honourable members, the indiscriminate competition places Uganda at the risk from the rising incidence of unfair trade practices by dominant market players that lead to market distortions, particularly on price fixation and abuse of dominance. So this necessitates development of competition laws so as to ensure fair trade and consumer protection in Uganda. You will notice this across sectors, be it the telecommunication sector, the banking industry, almost all of those that are controlled by foreign companies where our bargaining power is low. So due to monopolistic or oligopolistic tendencies of some of the market players, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives has on many occasions sought to control escalating prices of cement and sugar in Uganda. However, there have been operational constraints arising from government's lack of a comprehensive law to effectively curtail the unfair trade practices arising from monopolistic tendencies. And we do recommend that the government comes up with a law to control and contain unfair trade competition. We have also looked at the question of unemployment, and we do agitate for a comprehensive skills development strategy, and this you will read it alongside our proposal on reforming the education system, because we do believe that skills development is one of the best ways to control and minimize unemployment. We have highlighted very many issues on agriculture, which I do not intend to go to. You will read it. And lastly, we have looked at the National Health Scheme. Government has over the years made several commitments to establish the National Health Insurance Scheme. However, the commitments do not translate into allocations, and we find that although the quality of health services in Uganda is inadequate, the majority of the citizens are constrained in affording them. And this hampers attainment of the Sustainable Development Goal number 3 that advocates for health lives and well-being. Efforts to develop a legal framework for the National Health Scheme are commendable. However, the National Health Financing Policy should be developed to guide sourcing and allocation of financing towards the health sector. We find that this has been effective in countries like Nigeria and Rwanda, and we do believe that this should have been a foundation base for the now running health financing strategy. So we do advocate for a quicker passing and implementation of the National Health Scheme. Honourable members, there are many other issues we have identified, and Madam Speaker, with those observations and key areas, I beg to lay the opposition response to the National Budget Framework paper. I beg to lay.
Thank you very much, Honourable the Leader of Opposition. the response will be sent to the budget committee as well as all the sectoral committees, because the paper touches all of them, so that can assist you in your interrogation and reporting. Item 4.
Item 4, presentation of the report of the Ugandan parliamentary delegation to the 2018 World Political Leaders Summit held from 6th to 9th June 2018 in Lithuania.
Now, well, should we just give the highlights, please?
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, if you would allow me, I would just summarize the report because it has already been uploaded in our iPad. Right Honourable Speaker, this is a report of parliamentary delegation which participated in the World Women Parliamentarians Leaders Summit of 2018 held in Vilnius, Lithuania, between 6th and 9th of June 2018. Right Honourable Speaker, this was a summit of women in the top leaderships in their respective countries. It was co-hosted by SILSMA, the Parliament of Lithuania, and held under the patronage of the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Her Excellency Dania Grybauskaitė. More than 400 women political leaders and other experts and partners from around 80 countries joined to celebrate 100 years since women in Lithuania gained voting rights. The Women Parliamentarian Summit of 2018 provided an opportunity for prominent female leaders in the world to participate, engage, learn, network, and evaluate progress on the global influence of female decision makers on democracy, good governance, rule of law, service delivery, transparency, and accountability. On the part of the delegation of Uganda, Right Honourable Speaker, the delegation should have been led by the Speaker herself, but because of the engagement on the national issues, she wasn't able to make it because this was a summit of women who have already reached the top level of political leadership. Right Honourable Speaker, I was privileged to lead that delegation, and you nominated Honourable Modeng Monica as the chair of WOPA to be part of that delegation, and we also had a member of staff to accompany us. The background to this delegation, Right Honourable Speaker, members will recall that the World Parliamentary Leadership Summit is a global gathering of female political leaders. It convenes around 400 participants, women political leaders from around the world every year. Right Honourable Speaker, among the leaders, we also find that people who are already holding positions in government, like cabinet ministers and some parliamentarians and mayors, are also invited to attend the summit. Quite often, the participants meet in the parliament of the host country. The WPL summit is always organized as a result of cooperation between WPL and the host country's government and parliament, international institutions such as the United Nations, Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, World Bank, Council of Women, World Leaders, the European Union, and other partners. The summit event addresses today's intertwined global challenges and offer the opportunity to exchange best...
I don't know whether it seems you're actually reading every paragraph.
I wanted to lift out the key issues and then go through to summarize, but if that is what you want, it's okay, Right Honourable Speaker. Women issues are known, but allow me, Right Honourable Speaker, to to raise the issues raised by the President of Lithuania in her address. I think that would be very relevant for us. That is on page 4, paragraph 3.1. The WPL Summit 2018 was addressed by the President of the Republic of Lithuania, Her Excellency Dalia Grybauskaitė. She stated that it was highly symbolic that prominent world leaders convened in Lithuania at a time when the Lithuanians were celebrating two important occasions. One, 100 years of modern Lithuania statehood, and 100 years since Lithuania women won their right to vote. Right Honorable Speaker, in her address, she said on page 5 that the family should be based on equality, so that same payment should be given for the same work without any discrimination on gender. 3, that women's housework and education of child at home should be considered the same as a man's earning to support the family, outside the family. Right Honorable Speaker, that's a key issue which I think is quite relevant in Uganda. You will also find, Right Honorable Speaker, that the occasion was also addressed by other prominent leaders like the Speaker of Parliament and also the head of WPL. Right Honorable Speaker, the key issues that emerged during the discussions on page 7, paragraph 1.4, we discussed embracing technology to create shared future. So women must take interest in technology. We addressed the issue of healthy women, or the health of women, the issue of building coalition and women caucuses to develop a legislative agenda, the issue of partners in economic empowerment, the issue of equal access to maternal health care, the issue of women as a powerful force for preventing and countering violent extremism, a woman's place in politics, gender budgeting, social media, the Girl to Leader program, and trust and leadership. Right Honorable Speaker, trust and leadership discussion was led by Uganda because they have, globally Uganda has registered a very good profile in the way Parliament conducts its business. So as a result, we were honored to chair that particular session. Right Honorable Speaker, the other issue that probably would be of interest to us are the lessons we learned during this engagement. That is on page 10. Right Honorable Speaker, the women all over the world coming together in summits such as WPL provides a great opportunity. B, gender mainstreaming should be embraced internationally as a strategy to realizing gender equality through design, preparation, and implementation. 3, traditional gender roles and stereotypes continue to have a strong influence on division of roles between women and men in the home. 4, ICT and digital technologies are key drivers in the economic development for both advanced and less developed economies. 5, women must be deliberately taught and encouraged to learn sciences at school in order to take employment in areas currently dominated by men. 6, all leaders, men and women, must inspire and encourage young women to take up leadership at all levels. 7, Parliament must deliberately strengthen women caucuses as a tool to build capacity. 8, Girl to Leader program must be embraced by all countries. Right Honorable Speaker, it was recommended that all the parliaments all over the world must create a dedicate a department or a unit for gender analysis within the parliamentary service to support the work of OWOPA, committees, and individuals. This is what we have agreed that must be done. So OWOPA, we have been requesting, the World Parliament is requesting that we must consciously develop this. 2, to conduct a comprehensive gender-sensitive analysis of the Parliament of Uganda using tools developed and applied in the European context. 3, introduce awards and recognize schemes for leaders that have supported the gender discourse in Uganda and the world at large. And 4, introduce Girl to Leader program and campaign to nurture young women leaders. Right Honorable Speaker, what the Parliament of Uganda did recently to recognize your assumption of leadership at the global level is one of the initiatives that we want to encourage in this Parliament. Where women have made a breakthrough in the world, we must own it and we must celebrate it. This is one way of encouraging our women so that wherever they are, they must know that their roles are being recognized and appreciated. Right Honorable Speaker, I appreciate you having given me this opportunity, and I must share with our Parliament that your leadership has really exposed Uganda at a very high level. And people appreciate that the quality of discussions and the quality of presentations that Ugandans make at the world level is commendable. That we touch on issues that actually make a change globally. I want to say that, which actually implies that the presentation I made was appreciated. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you very, very much, Commissioner Wall, for representing us so effectively. So I will direct the clerk to address the recommendations on page 11 and present a paper to the Parliamentary Commission. I'm also instructing that the report be sent to all the committees because the deliberations touch on many issues so that the committees can pick up what is relevant for them. Thank you very much. One discussion. Honorable Hunda.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I'm very impressed by the report, but one most notable point, which I felt did not come very closely in the recommendation, she mentioned it on technology. And this took me quickly to see how our women in the rural areas suffer while cooking using the 3 stones. And Right Honorable Speaker, this is an intervention which really government can manage. And if you look at the revolution in Europe and others, there is what they call the microwave revolution, which brought men to also love cooking. Right Honorable Speaker, I did an experiment in my constituency by chasing 3 stones from my constituency. And I promoted that technology, which made me dear to women. And while that technology is adopted, the findings, because I did a study, I found out that 30% of the men who would not go to cook, after bringing in that energy-saving technology, they started cooking. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I just wanted passionately to add this point, such that we can really serve and get our women out of suffering from the 3 stones.
Thank you. Maybe I could just remind the members, when we had the science and technology exhibition here, a number of stoves were brought, which could really help our women to get out of the smoke. And they were not extremely expensive because they are a one-off. You pay once and you cook forever. So I hope members can follow up on those issues so that our people can breathe better. You know, even when they're in that kitchen, they're also with the children. So the mother is smoking the smoke, the child is also smoking the smoke, so it causes diseases. Amede or never Amede? Yes. Clarification over from who? There's no one on the floor.
Procedure, perhaps. Honorable Speaker, this report touches on women, and one of its major goals is to encourage women participation in public office, especially in leadership at all forums. I was wondering why it hasn't attracted a debate for us to articulate issues facing women leadership in this country. Thank you.
Honourable members, when the presentation is done, and now that you've shown interest, you can appoint a day to debate. All she was required to do was to lay and just highlight. But we shall arrange a day to debate, maybe next week, before we get very busy with the budget. Item 6.
Procedure. Madam Speaker, whereas Honorable Cecilia Ogwala has presented the report, there is one miscap that she has not read that report. So we don't know whether in the future we can have a difference on the matter.
Right, Honorable Speaker, as a commissioner, I know the procedures. The clerk of Parliament ought to put a copy to be laid on table. But since by oversight it has not been done, I beg to lay on table my personal copy. I beg to lay.
Thank you. Item 6.
Item 6, response by ministers to questions. Roman 1 by Honorable Makomoto Edward Oto, MP Agago County, on insecurity in Agago District, occasioned by incursions of Karamojong herdsmen.
No, Minister of Internal Affairs.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to beg for your indulgence, because what I have is only preliminary information in relation to both Agago as well as Ngora. For example, in Agago, I know a young man by the name of Okot Santo was killed. His body was later found mutilated. Meetings have been held. Meetings are continuing to be held. Local security officials are involved, and I wanted those processes to be completed before I can give a complete report. This is equally the matter with Ngora in versus Palisa around the water body separating the two bodies. I request that you permit me to give a full report on these two matters on Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you, the Right Honourable Speaker, and I also want to thank the Minister for at least attending today and updating us as to what has been going on. The Right Honourable Speaker, this is an ongoing year in, year out matter. This is a matter that we raised last year, but equally on December 20th, 2018, I warned when the Minister presented a report here on the floor of Parliament when we're discussing Honorable Chagulanyi's being stopped from presenting. I raised this issue and I made prayers. And I warned about the developing security situation. Now, on the 5th, for the benefit of the minister who was not in the house at the time when I raised this matter of national importance, on the 5th of January, Saturday, and I think he has tried to describe the situation, but it was a gruesome murder where this young man, Okot Santos' neck was cut. They speared him 4 times, and very, very disturbing images that I've tried to share. The challenge, I know this has happened, and I understand for a lasting solution, it will definitely require time. But it does, the situation we had at the time where people, and the Right Honourable Speaker, I know you are not the presiding officer at the time, for the second matter that I raised on the floor, this issue, if I may highlight, is what it has caused is it has caused ethnic tension to the extent that I fear that innocent Acholis or innocent Karamojongs who may not be involved in this criminality are at the risk of being victimized. And we had a situation where people were no longer sleeping they were internally displaced in a number of villages in Adilang sub-county as a result of this matter. They were fearing to come back home, to sleep at home. They sleep in the center and go back in the night to their places. I had the benefit of going for another meeting last weekend on Saturday, and I dedicated how the district officials had been overwhelmed by this situation, following animals to Cotido, the cost of going with motorbike and the fees they have to pay, among other things.
Okay, what do you want? What do you want us to do?
The Right Honourable Speaker, I was just trying to point out the background to some of this. But our prayers were, one, that if you look at the anti-stock theft unit, the number that are there were only 5, 3.
Wouldn't that depend now on the, I don't know, because now you are moving ahead of the minister.
But the Right Honourable Speaker, maybe if I could finish, then maybe it will
But now you are now giving an evaluation of what he was doing. We don't know what he was doing. You're talking about the numbers, which should have been many, should have been.
But the gap that is there right now is part of the problem why we are having this alarming situation. And yes, maybe
Madam
information.
Speaker, just for the information of the colleague, I have indicated that there are activities taking place. Investigations are taking place. For example, on the 9th of January, we had a meeting with the local people, with the local leaders. On the 12th of January, we again had a meeting. On the 22nd of January, we have planned a meeting, including members of parliament, UPDF, police, as well as the local leaders. And I wanted this process all done so that when I report, I can also say, this is what happened, this is what is happening, and this is what we have put in place to stop this problem.
Honourable Minister, report on Tuesday. 6.3.
Item 6.3.
We shall speak on Tuesday on this issue. You'll add when he has brought a statement. Now everybody is going to bring things. Whisper to him there. Item 6.3.
Item 6.3. Question by Honorable Sarah Najuma, Woman Representative in Nakaseke District, on the outbreak of unknown disease in Nakaseke District.
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, yesterday Honourable Sarah Najuma, the woman member of Parliament Nakaseke, did raise the issue regarding an outbreak of an unknown disease in Nakaseke District. Right Honourable Speaker, a viral hemorrhagic fever suspected female patient was admitted to Kiwoko Hospital on the 11th of January 2019. Samples from the patient were taken off and taken to the Uganda Virus Research Institute for testing. The patient was isolated as results were being awaited. The results from the Virus Research Institute tested negative for the viral hemorrhagic fevers. She was given, however, supportive treatment for symptoms and improved, and she was discharged. Right Honourable Speaker, maybe just to indicate that she was also tested for malaria and, of course, other diseases, and they were all negative. But the full blood count was done, and it was established that she had low white blood cell count. We had, Right Honourable Speaker, another suspected case. Yesterday, the 16th of January, a 31-year-old farmer from Mijumwa village, Wachiato sub-county, who developed similar symptoms of bleeding in gums and the nose. He was picked actually after Honorable Najuma had informed me, and I informed the technical team. The DHO was contacted, and they went and traced the person at his home. So he was picked upon these alerts and brought to Kiwoko Hospital in Nakaseke district, where he was admitted yesterday. He's currently in isolation, and as usual, Right Honourable Speaker, the practice is that these are just suspects. So the samples have been picked from him and sent to the Uganda Virus Research Institute. We therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, are awaiting for results from UVRI, but the patient is undergoing general supportive treatment for fever, diarrhea, nausea, and appetite loss. If the results, Right Honourable Speaker, are positive for any viral hemorrhagic fever, the country will be informed accordingly. I therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, would like to assure the Honourable Member from Nakaseke and the entire communities in Nakaseke and the country that there is no cause for panic. Our teams from the Ministry of Health are working with the district leadership, and they are on the ground in Nakaseke continuing with the surveillance. Right Honourable Speaker, just to assure you that the Ministry of Health, with support from CDC Atlanta, has over the years developed strong mechanisms and systems to detect, prevent, and respond to disease outbreaks. So, Right Honourable Speaker, as I did indicate yesterday, Nakaseke district lies in the cattle corridor, and this region has been prone, is at risk of the Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Under the One Health approach, Right Honourable Speaker, we are working with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries to deal with the resistant ticks and tick diseases, not only in Nakaseke but in the entire cattle corridor, because this is where this challenge actually comes from. So we shall inform the country once the results, if they are positive, but if they are negative, there is really no need. The patient will be managed and discharged accordingly. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. I thank the Minister for her report, and it's true, she has done some work. The Ministry has intervened in the situation. That is why I'm seated here. I wanted to see whether they really went on ground, but her report is, I don't fear. By the way, I give credit to Honorable Opendi, because even yesterday when I contacted her, she contacted someone. So I came here to thank her. I came here to thank her and also to appreciate her, because yesterday when I raised an issue, she took a step to see that we are rescued. Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
On behalf of the House, let me thank the Minister and the Minister of Health for the very effective response to this issue. Item 7.
Item 7, motion for adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Local Government.
This was
Dr.
a question.
Report.
It's not a general statement, it was only a question by Honorable.
Madam Speaker, I wish there's a training school where Honorable Pendu, the Minister for Health, could take people like J.J. Odong to learn and come and fight cattle rustling. You see, Madam Speaker, because she's very effective, they should copy her, and also thank her, but you can see, she's better than a whole J.J. Odong.
Honorable Nandala, please. Item 7.
Item 7, motion for adoption of the report of the Public Accounts Committee, Local Government, on the Auditor General's report for the financial year 2016-2017.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you will recall that this report was already laid in this house before, about 2 weeks ago, I think. But the primary purpose for this, I think, for this motion is to allow the House to adopt the report. But you'll also permit me to just make a summary, because I think it is already uploaded in our iPad, but the other time we did not have the opportunity to go through the recommendations and some of the observations. So if you could permit in just maybe about 10 to 15 minutes, I go through it very quick, and then we also expect members to be able to respond.
You have the executive summary?
Yeah, I have the executive summary here. As I go through the executive summary, let me thank the members of Park local government, the outgoing. I don't know whether they'll be resignated to go back. I can see a few members here for the good work done. The Right Honourable Speaker and members, Rule 179 of the Rule of Procedure of Parliament mandates the Committee of Public Accounts, Committee Local Government, to examine the audited accounts in relation to the report laid before Parliament by the Minister of Local Government under Section 88/8 of the Local Government Act, Cap 243. The committee considered the detailed audit reports of 115 district local governments, 41 municipal council, and 63 town council, giving a total of 213 entities. The committee interacted with the audit entities in the audit regions of Arua, Gulu, Fort Portal, Kampala, and Masaka, while the audit regions of Mbarara, Mbale, Soroti, and Jinja were considered from within the principle of Parliament. The committee also conducted visits to some of the selected infrastructure projects, mainly in the municipalities. The Right Honourable Speaker, honourable members, the committee now presents its finding in a summarized way. The overall approved national budget for the financial year 2016-2017 was 26,360 billion for the local government. And for the local government was 2,596 billion for the financial year 2016-2017. Out of this approved budget, 2,537 billion was released, representing a performance of 98 of the total budget approved. This budget allocation showed an increment of 235 billion, which is 10%, in comparison the financial year 2015-2016. This is in nominal terms. However, in terms of percentage share of local government grants to national budget, it was the same for both financial years at 9.85%. Let's look at the conditionality of local government transfers. The committee observed that out of the funds released in the financial year 2016-2017, 65.89% was toward wages, 22.60% towards non-wage, and only 11.51% towards development. Therefore, 88.5% of the local government transfers are towards recurrent expenditure, leaving very meager resources for development. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development adjust the budget ceiling for local government to allow for more funds to be allocated to the development component of the budget with a view to improving the level of service delivery. The budget overview. Observation. The committee observed that out of 213 entities, the Auditor General isolated 67 local government entities and established that although Parliament approved funding total to 1 trillion, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development released only 862 billion, leading to a shortfall of 147 billion. Failure to implement budgets as approved by Parliament hampers service delivery and subsequently hindering the attainment of virtually all sustainable development goals. Furthermore, it is difficult to attain international targets, that is the sustainable development goals, if local and national targets are not met. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development releases should ensure that all funds appropriated to local governments are released in a timely manner to ensure service delivery effectively. Overall revenue performance. Observation. The committee notes that low domestic revenue collection could hinder the achievement of Sustainable Development Goal 2, which is on about zero anger. And a strategic review by the Economic Policy Research Center 2017 indicated that 4 out of 10 Ugandans are unable to meet the required daily dietary intake. Uganda's inability to meet the target set out of the Sustainable Development Goal 2 shows that suitable financing for implementation is still lacking. The central government has continued to interfere in matters of local revenue management, and this is especially in the transport industry and in markets where it has prescribed the levy to be charged as park fees and directly influence allocation of market stalls in selected municipal councils, thus directly affecting the amount of local revenue collected. Just like in the previous report, Madam Speaker, the committee found a number of districts exuded laxity in the collection of debts, contrary to Section 2.3 of Local Government Financial and Accounting Manual 2207, leading to accumulation of receivables. Many local governments have entrusted the task of compelling individuals to meet their financial obligation to counsel to law enforcement officers who have on many occasions exuded errant behaviors, including protecting defaulters at a fee. Revenue assessment should be done annually, but many local governments are using results of outdated revenue assessment exercises, and others do not even have revenue registry and updated property valuation list. Districts like Moroto, Namayingo, Kabale, Isingiro, Bueju, that would have otherwise benefited from royalties from minerals are not certain of how much money in royalty is due to them. This arises from the incapacity of the line Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development to know the types and quantity of minerals being mined either out of deliberate negligence or outright corruption. The committee noted that whereas the divisions are administratively equated to sub-counties, divisions do not contribute revenue to the district local government, yet sub-counties do. Recommendations. Madam Speaker, the committee recommends that the central government should desist from interfering in areas of local revenue collection in the local government that are otherwise decentralized. The Ministry of Local Government should procure an independent company to conduct local revenue assessment in the local government. This, however, calls for a review of the Local Government Act. The Ministry of Public Service should, in restructuring exercise, provide for enforcement officers in the district establishment. Accounting officers together with finance officers should ensure all debts are collected in a timely manner, and that where debtors fail to pay, court redress is sought for. There is need to revisit the tax tendering system and adopt centralized receipt system as has been adopted in neighboring countries like Rwanda and Tanzania. The Ministry of Energy, Ministry of Development, Mineral Development should share on all licensed mined, and make sure they share royalties as per the law and within the predictable timelines. The Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development should install way bridges on roads exiting the mines so that the quantities of minerals can be established. District and municipal authorities should, in collaboration with Uganda Revenue Authority, conduct tax sensitization workshops, seminars among local communities with a view to enhancing revenue collections. Government should streamline the financial relationship between the district local government, municipal council, as well as between municipal council and divisional council, amending the existing law regulating the sharing on revenues in the alternatives. Government should consider granting municipal council total autonomy to enable them cater for their own councillors and the members of the statutory bodies, such as the Land Board, Procurement Unit, and the Service Commission. Financial payment system used by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Observation. The system has gaps that cause delays. In the local government, a number of staff are not conversant with the IFMIS system. Some entities are not properly equipped with the prerequisite necessary, like the internet, reliable electricity for the IFMIS system. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development carry out capacity building of the system and users and effectively communicate on the upgrades of the system. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, in collaboration with the Minister of Public Service, expedite the rollout of both IFMS and integrated payroll system in the local government. The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development expedite the process of equipping the local government with the necessary accessories to run the system. Health sector. Health sector service delivery, minimum standard. Observation. The committee observed that most health units in local governments are insufficiently equipped in terms of the requisite machinery needed to provide the service expected of them. Some of the poor infrastructure in the health sector arose from re-centralization of the primary health care development grants, which further limit the capacity of districts to do even minor repairs in the health facilities, as the funds are now hardly felt in the local government. More than 2/3 of districts in Uganda do not have district hospitals. The committee further concerned that a number of health center fours function like highway hospitals, yet they still get supplies meant for health center fours. Some districts on the border of Uganda with South Sudan and Democratic Republic of Congo are hosting a high number of refugees from the state countries, an aspect that has caused a strain in the healthcare services. The health centers near these camps have experienced a huge influx in the number of patients without a corresponding increment in medical supplies. Many local governments do not have ambulances, transport patients, and between health units. All the above conditions compromises the Uganda ability to achieve sustainable development goals number 3, which as it states, to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Ministry of Health should provide sufficient funds to the district local government and municipal council with a view to improving infrastructure, staffing, equipment in all health centers to meet the set standards. Special attention should be given to the unique situation like highway hospitals, health centers serving as district hospital, and health centers in refugee hosting districts. Additional resources should be allocated to cater for emergencies in highway health centers. Utilization of medicine and health supplies, lack of accountability of medicines. Madam Speaker, the committee observed that there has been numerous reports of embossed medicine from Uganda being found in drug shops in some of our neighboring countries. The committee notes that poor record keeping could be the deliberate loophole that is being used by individuals in the health facilities to channel medicines away from the intended beneficiaries. Lack of medicine and medical supplies accountability may lead to stock out, which in turn denies the population service delivery. Lack of medicines and medical supplies accountability may also lead to the build-up of expired drugs in health facilities. Recommendation. Accounting officers should ensure that all necessary records for items are properly maintained, monitored, and any variance investigated where deliberate mismanagement is confirmed. The culprits are prosecuted. The Minister of Health should put in place a clear mechanism of tracking medicines from the national medical stores to the health facilities, then finally to the consumer. This will help in tracing fictitious consumption of the medicines and medical supplies, stock out of medicines. The committee observed that there were discrepancies and delays in drug supplies by the national medical stores against the entities' requisitions. Sometimes the requisitions from the ministry, from the health facilities, were not properly done. There are instances where the drug stock out arose from the fact that some health units had sufficient funds at the national medical stores. Some drugs at the national medical stores are overpriced in comparison to the market price of the same drug from the same manufacturer. For example, paracetamol costs about 3,000 to 6,000 depending on the brand, but medical stores put it at 8,000. A tin of 10 capsules of amoxicillin costs 20,000 on the market, while the national medical stores put it at 25,000. Ciprofloxacin costs 4,000 in the open market, but the national medical stores charges about 6,000 for the same quantity. The recommendation. There should be a review of the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between Government of Uganda and the national medical stores with a view to reversing the monopoly of the national medical stores. National medical stores should ensure the health units are supplied with the exact drugs, the requisition for and at the right time in line with the last mile delivery required. The cost of drugs of NMS should at no time be more than the market price of the same drug from the same manufacturer. The accounting officer should ensure reconciliation of drugs, orders, and drug deliveries at the time of drug deliveries to the health units. The accounting officer should ensure that the requisition for the drugs are properly done. The accounting officer should ensure that drug stock cards are properly kept. Non-disposal of expired medicine. I think I'm about to finalize. I just want to make sure I make a summary. But this is very important because of the, I'll skip others. Let me finalize this issue of medicine. The committee observed that national medical store uses push system for supply of medicine to health centers, 3, and tools, which results into supply of unwanted drugs and expiry of medicine with a shorter shelf life. Some of the expired medicines were donation to the health units outside their requisition, and some in charges requisition for wrong medicine. The mandate of national medical stores should be amended to include the disposal of expired drugs, since the entity already has the infrastructure to carry out the activity. Currently, the trucks that delivers medicine return to national medical stores empty. MS Green Label, that was contracted by the Ministry of Health to collect and dispose all expired medicine from the health units, do not have the capacity to efficiently collect expired medicine. Recommendation: national medical stores should stop using the push system, but rather supply according to the established requirements of the different health units. Health units should not accept donation of medicine that they do not need. The mandate of the national medical stores should be amended to include disposal of expired medicine, since the entity already has infrastructure to carry out this activity. Madam Speaker, with your permission, I want to skip the issue of sustainable development goal, which I think was mentioned at some point in our report. And then I proceed to the issue of understaffing at the district local government. Observation found out that understaffing in local government constrains service delivery. The Ministry of Public Service, in a restructuring exercise, came up with the new staffing structures for local government to address the problem of understaffing. However, the problem still persists. Districts have failed to attract some cadre due to low remuneration, and yet high qualification were required, especially the post of district engineers, district health officers, and chief finance officers. The committee noted that there is a practice of ring fencing some jobs for the individuals born in that district. Is this a little surprise? Recommendations. The Ministry of Public Service, Ministry of Local Government, and the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should set up clear staffing standards and finance them appropriately. The Ministry of Public Service should come up with the guidelines aimed at equalizing the staffing level among local governments by halting recruitments of non-vital staff in entities that are above average and using the resources to bring the local government that are below average to average level. This should be done progressively from year to year, and when all entities are at average, the same level, the ministry should work towards ensuring that staffing level in all local government reach 100%. The Minister of Public Service and Minister of Finance should make known to the Office of the Auditor General the expected level of recruitment in financial year, which with a view to having queries raised on many entities that fail to recruit for the available vacancies against the wage bill for the financial year. The Minister of Local Government should work with the Minister of Public Service to waive some of the non-critical requirements for the position like district engineers, which has continuously failed to attract candidates, and also increase the remuneration of district engineers so as to synchronize the pay with that offered by other competitive government bodies. Minister of Local Government, in collaboration with the Minister of Public Service, intensifies its supervision of local government in regards to staffing. Low recovery and mismanagement of Youth Livelihood Project Fund. The committee observed that the program was highly politicized, especially with it being introduced during the electioneering period. The politicians influenced the choice of youth interest groups in many districts, and some instances even gave a false impression to the beneficiaries that the funds were not recoverable. Ghost groups have been formed by some community development officers with the intention of defrauding the fund. The program document is good, but with politicians involved in the implementation, it is bound to fail. That is a subject for debate. Technocrats need to be given free hand in choosing the beneficiaries. Non-compliant beneficiaries of the fund should be arrested to ensure that the groups make all efforts to recover the fund. Recommendation. Government should sanction recovery of funds from persons implicated in mismanagement of the fund. Government should review the structural objectives and guidelines of the Youth Livelihood Program with a view of realizing value for money and creating decent employment for the unemployed youth pursuant to the Sustainable Development Goal 8, which advocates for promotion of sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. I would have commented something on this, Madam Speaker would allow, that normally the statistics in terms of recovery vary between the districts and the ministry. You go to the district, you find that the recovery rate will be like at 40%, but the ministry will present a different figure of 80% to allow them disburse that money. And it keeps on compiling. So you'll find that the district recovery rate is very low compared to what the ministry presents. That kind of mismatch, we don't know where it is coming from, and the intention, we don't know where it is coming from. The Ministry of Gender and Social Development. Lack of land titles. The committee observes that the local government do not have the financial capacity to have all their land titled. The committee noted that government institutions in some of the districts and municipalities in Buganda and Bunyoro region are sitting on cultural land. Most cultural institutions are unwilling to allow local governments process free all land titles for the lands they are sitting on. This has made it difficult for the local government to process land titles for their facilities. There is an urgent need for the central government to facilitate local government countrywide to secure land over which they can operate. A number of districts have not demarcated the boundaries of their land. Recommendation. Government takes up the responsibility of securing land titles for its land countrywide. Government should provide land for service delivery in its entities that are located on cultural lands. Districts and municipal council authorities should, in the meantime, institute measures of demarcating government land within their jurisdiction. I think, let me just, the other ones, let me go to education. If you, the other one you can read, it goes uploaded. I'm just trying to select the most appropriate and important one that appeals to all of us. Education. The ministry, this is the observation, the Ministry of Education and Sport has failed to facilitate the attainment of the above standard. It's about education standard. The budgeted capitation grant, 7,100 per child per year, that is provided for UPE-aided schools is inadequate and is often not fully released. Some classes were housed in overcrowded and condemned structures. Learners use fill-up pit latrines, which are high risk to both the learners and the teachers. The above scenarios are compounded by lack of a functional school inspection system, which does not provide for feedback to policymakers. Cases of lack of pupils and teachers attendance registry were rampant. The transition rate from pupils was only 10% for all the children who enrolled in primary 1. 90% of the learners dropped out because completing primary before completing primary 7. Schools in refugee hosting districts were heavily congested. The affected districts include Kirandongo, Ajumani, Koboko, and Koboko, among others. From the committee interaction with the districts, it established that a number of government-aided secondary schools and tertiary institutions receive a lot of public funding, including donor funds, yet they have not been audited over time. The current situation of the education sector in Uganda hinders the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 4 that requires countries to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Recommendation. Education, both pre-primary, education, primary, pre-primary and post-primary Act 208 should be implemented in totality with all the stakeholders meeting their stipulated obligations. This will lead to Uganda towards the attainment of Sustainable Development Goal 4. The budgeted capitation grant, 7,100 per child per year, should be increased and released in a timely manner. The Office of the Auditor General should carry out a special audit on all government-aided secondary schools and tertiary institutions that receive donor funding. The Auditor General should audit government-aided secondary schools as required by law. This one, Madam Speaker, we have found a very big loophole in terms of auditing the tertiary institutions as well as secondary schools, and yet normally funds is released to these entities. Non-compliant with procurement law. The committee observed that a number of local governments breach the procurement law with impunity, which curtails achievement of value for money and affects service delivery to the public. Grounded vehicles in local governments belong to government bodies at the center, notably Minister of Health, Minister of Works and Transport. The center gives local government vehicles, but they retain the logbooks and necessary documentation. The above practice denies the local government the authority to dispose of vehicles whose documentation is with the central government. The local government foot the bills of the chief government valuer and the chief mechanical engineer in instances whereby valuation of assets in the local government is required. The committee noted that the practice is very improper. Recommendation. Accounting officers, together with procurement officers, should be held responsible for non-compliance with the procurement regulations. Local government should be allowed to dispose of grounded vehicles and other assets without recourse to the logbook. I don't know how possible this is. The central government should own up responsibility of valuing all government assets, be it used by the central government or local government. About to finish, I think it's just about one page to go. Non-compliance with the procurement, this one just gone through. Non-compliance with statutory obligations, non-deduction and remittance of pay as you earn tax, payee, local service tax and withholding tax. The committee observed that non-compliance with the tax law attracts fines and penalties. It is negligent of accounting officers not to remit tax after the reduction. The practice is a result of weaknesses in internal audit unit in the districts, which would have otherwise detected flaws in the system. Recommendation. Accounting officers should remit the tax reduction promptly on a monthly basis. Accounting officers should be held liable for non-deduction and remittance of taxes. URA should routinely interact with the tax entities for regular updates on their obligations. Road fund. Observation. Some districts like Kole did not have functional district roads committee, which are responsible for planning and allocation of road funds. Some of the MPs are here for Kole. The allocation of road funds to the local government is said to be premised on the length of road network. However, this criteria is disregarded as evidence in the table above. You can see on your upload on the iPad, there is on the main report. That shows a comparison of district local government allocation. It is clearly seen that there is unfair disparity in road fund allocation to districts with similar conditions. Recommendations. Any district found not to have a functional district road committee should not access the road fund. The road fund should be disbursed equitably. Theft through electronic money transfer from the Ministry of Finance, Planning, and economic development to some local governments. The committee observed that the issue of unauthorized transfer of public funds from the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to officials, for example, in Apache district and to Dohaga Secondary School, by passing approved channel, points to fraud. Recommendation. You can read in the main report, the details are captured there. The committee recommends that the matter be transferred to the Criminal Investigation Department for further investigation with a view of prosecution. Pension management. The committee observes that the delayed payments of pension contravenes Article 254 of the Constitution. Recommendation. The committee recommends that the Minister of Public Service should effect automatic transmission of results from the active payroll to the pension payroll and immediate payment of gratuity upon retirement. Madam Speaker, I beg to report.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, and the members of the Public Accounts Committee, Local Government, for this comprehensive report. Now, honourable members, there are two areas I wanted to get clarification. First, in this report, it is said that we have not had money to survey the mineral areas, but I know last year the Minister of Finance undertook to provide money. I hope the Minister of Energy would confirm whether that money is going to be provided to do the surveys. The second one has to do with the recommendation by the committee that the Ministry of Energy construct way bridges on the roads leading to the mines. I'm not sure whether it is their work or the one of Ministry of Works. So I think we shall want to get clarification whether the Ministry of Energy can establish way bridges on some roads. No, you have to stand up. Those are the areas I caught which I thought the minister could help us with before we start the debate. Now, Dujanga, then I'll catch the members.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And I would like to thank my colleague for a very comprehensive report. Now, indeed, Madam Speaker, there are those three areas. One is
they're intimidating the speaker. Proceed.
One is actually to do with the level of royalties accruing to the local governments. It has been reported that we are not capable of knowing how much. But, Madam Speaker, as much as possible, we monitor the royalties. First of all, we monitor the extraction of the minerals and the royalties in accordance with the law. But for this particular case, we will study and see why this time it wasn't possible for us to know what was accruing to the local government. Now, Madam Speaker, you have already observed that the roads, the Ministry of Energy is not capable, has no capacity to handle roads, and this is the matter for Ministry of Works. And the third issue was to do with the geological survey. We did in the past 80% of the country, but for this region in question, it was not possible because of security problems that time. But now the Parliament has approved money, but by the time this report was being made, I think they didn't pick this, but we now have the money approved, so we'll proceed now to do this remaining part of the country. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Tumuzigu. Tumuzigu, Ruhunda, Achia, Angura, Nyendoha. Then we go come like this. Yeah, very few.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the chairperson for a very good report, because it has actually brought out what is happening in our local governments. My biggest concern is about the health conditions in our districts. The medical centers are having a very big problem, and when it comes to the distribution of drugs, national medical stores decided to use a system where they inform leaders when drugs are being delivered, because they knew that the people on the ground cannot even read the delivery notes. But when they started doing that, you discover that me, who comes from Kajara, I get information for Ruhama. Then the one of Ruhama gets information for Kajara. So I get to know when drugs are being delivered in Ruhama, but when drugs are being delivered in my constituency, it's now the MP of Ruhama to get to know, which means maybe it was done intentionally, and therefore there is a very big confusion there. Another problem associated with that, you discover that if you remember we had this constituency health committee fund, where we would get a chance to interact with our people, have leaders, make sure we have meetings, and we talk about such problems. That fund was scrapped, and when I asked the Minister of Health, she told me that the fund was mismanaged, and the district, the DHOs could not give reports about that fund, and therefore it was scrapped. They are using that money for other services. So you discover that our people can no longer talk to their leaders. They can no longer bring out whatever really is not going well in those health centers, and therefore our people are suffering. No wonder this report really was timely. Then when we go to the district payment system, the payment system actually is bringing a lot of problems, because as I'm talking, the cow of Ntungamo is not in office because of that problem, because people couldn't be paid in time, and the council was not happy with that, and therefore they made a resolution that the cow should step down, and the problem was not actually the cow, but the system. The people down there in local governments do not know how to use those systems. The people at in the central government are also taking that chance to manipulate the system, and sometimes they make sure they get, maybe they defraud those people in local governments by using the system which the people down there have not understood. Therefore, Madam Speaker, the problem down there is still so big, and therefore the Ministry of Local Government has got to fight for the local government officials and even the people down there. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Now, Ruhunda, 3 minutes. Nyendo has 3 minutes. Aki has 3 minutes. Then I go to that side.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker.
I'm still on this side.
Right Honorable Speaker, unfortunately, Minister of Finance is not here. The key, Minister of Right Honorable Speaker, this is one of the best reports that has been presented to Parliament. It is very accurate. Right Honorable Speaker, we have been generating very good reports as Parliament, but there is a fundamental problem. When this country adopted the decentralization system, it became one of the best models on the continent. But over the years, Right Honorable Speaker, The whole decentralization system has been totally undermined. And these are the glaring results that are on the ground. So the fact that the ministries have set systems that have re-centralized the powers, they have rendered these local government entities impotent. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I would really urge through your office that this report, actually I don't know why the people in opposition cannot use such a report to convince Ugandans. Because to show alternative, what I'm trying to show you is that there is enough menu through which if you really meaningfully engage, there is enough menu to show alternative and make government perform effectively. But Right Honorable Speaker, I want to make it very clear that these local governments, the local governments are not performing, and if you engage locally, the burdens that are as a result of the failure of local governments is coming back to us as members of parliament. We are shouldering the burden unnecessarily. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I would propose that we put we make a very special, strong resolution of seeing how we can really force government to go back and support the decentralization system. Without that, we shall continue looking at symptoms.
No, Nyendoha then Achia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
I've seen you sit. I've seen you.
I'd like also to appreciate the committee for the report that is so rich in a lot of information. Madam Speaker, my comment is on two things. And the first one is about the health service delivery minimum standards. Madam Speaker, most of our local governments at the moment are still having the issue of health center tools. And you find these health center tools up to now have not been elevated to health center 3, meaning we continue getting drugs for the level of health center 2 instead of health center 3. And some districts have taken initiative of even putting up some health facilities, but we're having a challenge that we have up to now failed to get health centers being recorded by the ministry, which is not enabling us to actually access drugs from national medical stores. We continue depending on other health facilities to get some of these drugs to be able to run these health facilities. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the districts that border, the health centers that border districts, you find the health center 3 that's at the border of a different district is getting an influx of patients from another district. And yet, when we are requisitioning for drugs, the population that is being targeted is only that population within the vicinity of that health center within the district. So this is something that needs to be addressed by the Ministry of Health. Border health facilities needs to be increased in terms of drugs and other facilities. I have a challenge, Madam Speaker. The issue of local government's dependency on central government. Why am I saying this? The question here arises, as a committee, did you find out the level of local revenue collection in these local governments? Because it's like local governments have given up on the issue of revenue collection. They don't care whether they have to increase the revenue base. All they look at is what is coming from central government. And my colleague did indicate, it's like now they are redundant. Whether money comes or doesn't come, they don't care. I think we need to style up. Local governments must be seen to be really told to increase the revenue base, or else we need more effort to make sure that local governments actually try to look for other avenues of seeing how some of these health services or education are going to be implemented in some of our health facilities and institutions. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we're going to have a very big problem. If government fails to release money in time, that means the local government will not be able to operate. Madam Speaker, I feel as a government, as the committee, as parliament, we need to make sure that the issues of local government are revised to make sure that revenue collection is being addressed in a more holistic way. Thank you.
As I invite Honorable Chair, honorable members, one day I was meeting the local governments in our outreach. So they told us that the central government went into the districts and took all the lucrative sources of revenue. So the districts are left with scrap. That's how they told me. They said, we have scrap, government comes and takes the market, the hotels, everything goes to central government. Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the committee and the chair for a very detailed and to the point report. Madam Speaker, I will not speak on two things. One is on this issue of way bridges. Madam Speaker, we have had like 20 meetings, even on the day before yesterday, we were the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development, meeting Minister of Mineral Development, Lokeris, on the issue of way bridges. Madam Speaker, every day, about 40 to 60 trucks, heavy trucks, these people call Magulukumi, pass through my constituency carrying marble from Karamoja, from Moroto, and from Kosiroi. We have struggled to ask the Ministry of Energy, can you please help us? So first of all, to know our royalties to put these way bridges. They have told us that's not their work. You talk to the people of Ministry of Works. When we met the Ministry of Works, we were told they don't have a budget to put way bridges. Madam, we are at a loss. I am even wondering, they do send some money, that's your royalty. I'm wondering, how do you know how much has been extracted? We have excavations there, almost the size of this House of Parliament, deep. Some of them cows have fallen there. At the same time, when you go to Tororo, the compound where this is stone is, a whole mountain has built. I don't know whether we should give it the same name from where it has come, because there is a hole, in Tororo there is another mountain. And this is the reality, Madam Speaker. I don't know why the Ministry of Works does not care even about their roads. The new tarmac road, Moroto Nakapriprit Road, is now getting cracked because Ministry of Works does not even care about the axle load. And the business people who have been hired to transport these materials carry any amount that the lorry is carrying. This is a brand new road, Madam Speaker. And now we have a bill again, we have a motion to approve more money for Miembe, Nakapriprit to connect it. These roads may not survive because for the last 9 years, the Ministry of Works and the Ministry of Mineral Development have failed to agree who should procure this. We have even gone to people in Ministry of Finance and URA. At least URA have theirs here along this road from Malaba and from Busia. They have a way bridge and it's manned by people of URA and Ministry of Works. I am wondering, Madam Speaker, I appeal to you, please to help us, to help this country and to help that region. On the issue of survey, the minister is saying your fiscal survey, that they have the money. Madam Speaker, in their budget, in their presentation to the committees, they don't have money. I'm not sure. They need 90 billion shillings. What they have in the budget is 20 billion to do geofiscal surveys. We have over 130 companies. If you click the map of geocastral map of EPLs, prospective licenses. So many people are now in Karamoja extracting gold, extracting so many minerals. The region is very rich in minerals. I'm even told now they are prospecting even for oil. And there are very good preliminary results by the Ministry of Energy that there is oil, and they were telling some of us that maybe some of the towns will need to be moved. There is a lot of oil in that region. My own people, voters, are digging gold even behind my house. I might even be forced to move from where I am in my village. This is a big issue, Madam Speaker. Why are way bridges become a ping pong between us, Minister of Energy, and Minister of Works? And nobody wants to take a decision. But wealth is being carried without this government wanting to know how much are these private entrepreneurs taking out of that region. Number two, Madam Speaker, I want to agree with the committee. This push system by National Medical Service is very bad. In my constituency, if you go around the villages, you find heaps of family planning pills in the dump pit outside the manyatas. Because when women go to the health centers to get these special feeds for children, malnourished children, they are also given these family planning pills. And in that region, you have not sensitized. You find a lot of them in the dump pits. They say, we are taking them just because they want the milk and these things for their children. In Nabila Tukel Center 4, for the last...
You're saying that people are given pills which they don't need?
They don't need.
So they can get milk?
They just get, because they can get food. They get this for their children. They get these drugs. When they reach home, they take their children to take to the dump pit. I have informed people, I even went to National Medical Stores. They are supplying tons and tons of condoms to Karamoja, but you will find them in the dump pits. Why are we being given things that we don't need? Madam Speaker,
yes.
Right now, in my constituency, and I think that's one of the issues, on issue of some of us who are border constituencies, right now, suddenly, there are over 3,000, 4,000 Western Pokot from Kenya in my constituency. Actually, the division commander is calling me. I leave tonight to go another meeting tomorrow. The health center 4 in my district is overwhelmed. The Turkana are there, the Pokot are there. I don't know what to do. I hear my brother from Magago is complaining of Karamajama on the other side. I'm also wondering, I'm not even talking about Ugandans, I'm talking about thousands of Kenyans who are permanently in my constituency. They said we need to ask the Minister of Health to agree. How do we fund health center first in districts where there are no hospitals? You know it is a health center for in a whole district. What do we do? Why should we be receiving the same amount of drugs compared to a district which has a hospital and has 2 or 3 health center first? In my constituency, in my district, there's only one health center for one. And it's catering for people in that constituency and people from Kenya. And there is not enough medicine. Lastly, Madam Speaker, on decentralization, my brothers, it's a very good policy. Last year, we had a visit to Lodwar County in Kenya. It receives an equivalent of 13 trillion. Actually, the budget of Turkana County, it is the highest after Nairobi, can run this country, pay the civil service, do everything. But the money remains at county level, and county level headquarters is like in Mbale. There is no, I was wondering, there is no connection between the people there and the people in the village. I found our system, it is actually hanging. Our system is so, even if there is little money, there is conditional grant which goes to the county, to the sub-county, to the parish. It goes deeper. What we have is, it's a very good system. What we need to do is, Madam Speaker, Right Honourable Speaker, is how do we ask our front bench and the government to, for example, interest itself in the recommendations of that report, because our NRM manifesto says service delivery, yeah. But the reports are telling us there is no service delivery. Can't we do something for the 20 billion which goes, I think? Can't we do something, because health center 3 receives 400,000. Is it 700, 900,000 for a whole, is it a quarter?
But I suspect that our people downstairs are not timing the contributions. I suspect they have stopped timing, because you have spoken for more than 3 minutes.
Okay, Madam Speaker.
Okay. 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to...
Pachuto Mungoma, Babadiri, Ashraf, and I close.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also want to thank the committee for the report. And I also want to appreciate Minister of Finance for releasing 98% of the budget. However, it's unfortunate that 11% only went towards the development budget. And I have a voice problem. I have a voice problem today. In fact, I was not good. Madam Speaker, when you consider the 11% that went to the development budget, I want to specifically look at CAIP project. Madam Speaker, the CAIP project was a good project, but in my constituency, I want to report that there was conflict of supervision of some of those projects, and most especially bridges that were awarded at the center, and where the supervision was not being done by the engineers on the ground. And some shoulder work was done. I thought that should have also been reported. Madam Speaker, the other challenge that I expected the committee maybe to tell us was on the releases from finance. In some instances, we have had certain districts get challenges as far as the releases from finance are concerned, where money gets there to the district late, and in some instances it is even returned. But today, on my interaction with the Minister of Finance people who are within our compound here, I was told that has been improved. They now release 33% in the first quarter, second quarter, and the third quarter, the last 33% is done, and mainly for development projects. I think that is good. On the side of revenue for the districts and the town councils and the sub-counties, Madam Speaker, whereas you've heard that government has taken most of the responsibilities of revenue collection, and most especially for town councils, where they rely on the taxi parks and other parks, I would implore that let government move very fast, even if they have taken over, but the collection of this money should start such that what is remitted to the town councils should start going. Otherwise, most of the revenue from the tax parks, which was very good for most of these councils of ours, is now in the hands that is not of government. Madam Speaker, I also wanted to ask the Minister of Health. You've heard about health centers.
Pachito, Mongoma, Babadiri.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I want to thank the committee for their good report. I want to comment on two areas. One about the health facilities. Right Honourable Speaker, whereas government has turned counties into districts, we appreciate. Just like the former honourable colleague said, in some districts, we do not have hospitals, and yet we have only one health center for. And in the effect that these counties became districts, we had influx of people coming into the town councils. Therefore, the amount of drugs and medical supplies being given to these districts cannot service all the number of the increasing population in these districts. I therefore want to urge the Ministry of Health that they should look at the supplies vis-a-vis the increasing population. In the same way, the number of health workers that are in these health centers are not adequate enough, and yet we have the increasing population. The other issue I want to comment on is on the Youth Lively Fund. Madam Speaker, it is true that this project or this program was politicized. And I know that in the Ministry of Gender, there is the Department for Monitoring and Evaluation. What are they reporting to this government? Can't there be a review on how this program should be managed? Madam Speaker, when you go to the districts, there is nothing to show that
Now Mongoma, then
Thank you very
Babadiri,
much.
then Ashraf, then I cross this side.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, and the Chair for the true report you have just presented. Madam Speaker and honourable members, I'm requesting you to visit your health centers. Often, when I live here, I normally go to my health center. But what I saw there is really very alarming. First of all the health centers in Uganda are underfunded. That is one. Two, the little money which is sent is also delayed. Three, the little money which is sent is stolen. Yes, this is very serious. The drugs are stolen. As I talk now, in Muyembe Health Center 4, last week, the RDC arrested 2 health workers who had faked a list of the patients. And these health workers have been arrested. They are battling with their cases in Blambuli Magistrates Court. This is very unfortunate. Now, what do we do as members of parliament? It is our role to supervise, carry on oversight visits, and then we bring back reports. Madam Speaker, for me, I would suggest that if seconded, we set up select committees to visit all the referral hospitals in Uganda. Then we come back and then we report to this house so that these health centers, they are funded in a special way whereby our people's health can improve. That is one. Hold on, please. I have been given only 2 minutes. The second point, Madam Speaker, I wanted to make is that about the youth livelihood. That is another challenge. I requested the minister in charge to go and visit my district, and indeed we went there, only to find out that 150 million shillings meant for youth livelihood had been stolen. This young man who is in charge, the desk officer who is in charge, I need to be protected, Madam Speaker. Now, the young man who stole the money is just scot-free. Nobody is following him up. The money has been stolen. Nobody is concerned. The youth are complaining. Honestly, members of parliament, this government, what are we doing as members of parliament? Madam Speaker,
Honorable Babadiri, but Honorable Mogoma, on the issue of the referral hospitals, our committee went round and they brought a report and we debated it. On the referral hospitals, our committee on health toward the referrals, and we debated it here, so we cannot do it again. Honorable Babadiri, Ashraf, then I cross this side.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank the Committee of Local Government Accounts Committee for very good report they have made.
Allow Honorable Babadiri to make a contribution.
Madam Speaker, these are the issues which we have been raising again and again. And I'm happy that the local government accounts has come out very clearly. And I beg that really these resolutions must be implemented. Madam Speaker, I'm very happy that they have mentioned hospitals or health center 3/4, which are bordering other countries and also refugees. Their funds should be increased because they are serving too many people at a go. A typical example is Koboko General Hospital. We follow the drugs which are given to us. And when I follow it after 2 days, they disperse to the sub-counties. But the one in the real center, health center, the hospital, after 2 days, they're all over. And of course, it's very clear. Too many people attend to that hospital. The refugees, plus those coming from Sudan, and those from Congo, definitely those drugs are not enough. And Koboko Health Center, General Hospital, is called a hospital by names. This is now the 3rd year we are receiving the same amount like any health center 4. There is no difference between the health center 4 and the Koboko General Hospital. So I really beg the Ministry of health to give Koboko General Hospital what it deserves, and because of the position it has. Yes, Finance Minister is here, you can listen. Now, regarding the drugs, the National Medical Store, the push issue was suggested by members of parliament. And we said, let them push the essential drugs which are required, like Mauquatam, like Piriton, like aspirin, and the other basic things must be pushed. But now they have taken advantage of that. They push all the drugs they don't need in their stores, plus those which are about to expire. You find that just within a week or two, all these things, the drugs have already expired. And they have accumulated in many health centers and also hospitals. And I like the recommendation. Let them, as they take it to us, let them collect and come and burn them here, rather than leaving them in the hospitals, because we don't.
Now, Ashraf, Abala Oshabe.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
Welcome.
Madam Speaker, I also wish to thank the committee for a job well done. Madam Speaker, our Committee of Parliament take time to investigate and interrogate witnesses in regards to the issue of corruption. But when it comes to real implementation, you find that we are let down. I wonder as to whether it's the courts or it's us ourselves who are trying to make us, let us down. Because how does it end at the end of the day? You find someone is mentioned to be actually clearly could be a culprit, but at the end of the day, he gets off the hook. I get surprised what happens at the end. I only know of one team that mismanages the fund from the Minister of Public Service. That team actually suffered. We all saw it. I wish the same thing could happen to everybody who's involved in corruption. Because people will find corruption very expensive once the properties are sold and actually all the properties and they're kept detained in prisons. But as of now, we work here and every day nothing takes place. So how do we get the corrective measures so that people who are involved in such things are not actually brought back again? We have unemployment in Uganda. Once you stole your job, go away. Let's get principals from university to join the services. Otherwise, we've been running around. I was here since the 8th Parliament. We've been talking about such people. But I find that some cows are being swapped. They are moved from here one place to another. And find him still working. So what are we doing? It appears we're wasting our time. Let's be firm on this and come with a law so that if someone is got actually in corruption, his properties will be actually sold to recover the money. That way, people will find it difficult for people to go for corruption. The other point I want to raise is about decentralization. We're right now trying to know the advantages and the disadvantages of decentralization. When the cows were under local governments, the corruption was very, very high in this country. But when the cows were brought to the center, things improved a bit. To me, let's find out a way of handling decentralization properly. There are advantages and disadvantages. Right now, we're afraid to get engineers because we want our own. We face the jobs. How do you get engineers? Let the center take over and get us professionals who are going to serve the people at the grassroots. We can't now make bridges on our roads because the engineers are locally found, employed by the people. So how do you work as a country like that? Let's find a way of getting professionals from the center, and maybe we'll go on so that we can improve the policy of decentralization. The last point is actually about youth livelihood. This is a good strategy to support our youth because they're coming from many of them are coming from universities without jobs. But then before we give them the money, we should train them.
Oshabe Abala Nambeshe in a cross here. I'm coming that side.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, allow me add my voice to the members for the committee for these insights. Right Honourable Speaker, we get concerned about national medical stores, especially with the highlights of the committee, where instead of doing the right thing, Right Honourable Speaker, we continue hearing information which is not right. Right, Honorable Speaker, at Kasanda Health Center 4, often I go there and on finding out what is the problem, women are dying. But even the simplest things that they need to operate a woman, a mother, Right, Honorable Speaker, those kind of requirements are not provided. And they tell you one thing, we tell national medical stores what we need, they supply as they want, which defeats the opinion of this House, which recommended a pool system, where even the ministry will tell you that we are using a pool system, but that pool system is not functioning the way it should. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the committee for highlighting the congestion in schools, especially in refugee camps. But beyond refugee camps, Right Honorable Speaker, even in our UPE schools, the congestion is too much. A school has 800 children when it has only 5 teachers, Right Honorable Speaker. You find a school with 700 children when it has only 6 teachers. There is no way these schools are going to compete. That's why you will not find them among the schools that scored the first grades in the results that were put up today. Yet, Right Honorable Speaker, majority of our people cannot afford private education. The more we continue here and think that a school can survive on 5 teachers, we are a big joke to this country. We are creating an economy where there are those that can really get education and those that pretend to be getting education. Honorable Speaker, on the funds for the youth, I think it's high time we review these funds as Parliament. Their impact, the impact they are creating among the youth. This money, we allocate it, but it has turned out to be political money with no impact.
Thank you, Honorable Member. What you forgot to mention is the congestion in the sanitation. You may find 1,000 children using 3 latrines in a school. But before I invite Honorable Barbara, join me in welcoming Suburbanites Club of Soroti Municipal Secondary School, represented by Honorable Ariko and Honorable Sege. And if you have been to the exhibition, these are the children who are, this is the robot club, the ones who have a robot there. So please find time and visit them in the exhibition, the only school which is there. Welcome. We're happy to see you here. Honorable Ariko, Abala, Nambeshe, then move up.
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. And at this time, I want to welcome the team from Soroti to this Parliament. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee for the job well done. This report here, if the ministries were serious, they would just get it and implement it, and Uganda will have been transformed. This is what I can say in simple terms. Because at the moment, Madam Speaker, as we talk, let me just give an example. For example, when we talk about something funny, overpricing of medicine by national medical stores. It's a big challenge, Madam Speaker. This is something that is, I'm just shocked. An institution of government is actually bringing, charging a higher price as compared to a private entity outside. That now means people are putting trust in a private entity other than the government institution. Number 2, this thing of understaffing, the ceiling in schools, and then that one in the health sector, is actually crippling service delivery at a lower level. And this country is actually suffering because of understaffing. Unless we stand firm to say there must be recruitment in the health facility, in the health sector, there must be recruitment in the primary schools. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, every year we shall always be getting wrong results. For example, today, so many districts, some of them do not even have a first grader from this PLOE. That's a shocking matter. You have 30, 50, 100, and others having thousands of candidates. And that's where, Madam Speaker, a problem is. Unless we as Parliament and government must come out clearly to address this matter, because something very, very critical. Madam Speaker, the other one, if we are talking about development, the report is telling us 11% of all the budget was for development. 11%. What is 11% in transforming an impoverished community in Uganda? For example, poverty has increased, like, for example, in terms of, it has increased by 40%. And that's a big challenge. Now, if we are talking about 40, this is 11%, what are we going to get? What results are we going to have in the next few years? And that's why, by the way, that means poverty is going to continue increasing, and people will be crying. There will be big challenges, and that's why, Madam Speaker, at the moment.
No, Nambeshe, then Olive, Onavokaluya, Aogan, Nandara, then I come this side. I'm getting all of you.
Thank you.
No. I'm now on this side.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Let me also add my voice to that of colleagues
I'm going in a circle.
to salute the committee for this good report. Madam Speaker, districts conduct year in, year out boards of survey to dispose of grounded vehicles and other assets. But even hiring, bring in the services of government valuer, these mechanical engineers, but at the end of the day, they cannot dispose of these grounded vehicles because of lacking local books and other necessary documentation. The committee recommendation, I'm at odds with that recommendation that disposing of these assets and grounded vehicles could be done without recourse to local books. The recommendation should be about the law. The law should change, should be amended. Like you have recommended that the Local Government Act could be amended so that interferences in this collection of taxes by central government would be stopped. So it is about amending the law. Madam Speaker, about understaffing, districts that are hard to reach have actually serious challenges they grapple with of attraction and retention of staff. And the Minister of Public Service is here. A number of districts, including Buruda, was captured among those to benefit from the 30% hard to reach fund. But implementation has remained an issue. Madam Speaker, I wish you could prevail over the Minister to tell us why. Is it finance that is failing to release funds? Or they have merely cosmetically included districts on the list of beneficiaries when they are not actually to benefit? Madam Speaker, the other one on primary health care funds, primary health care development funds. At the time when they were still at the districts, these funds helped a lot in infrastructure developments. The report has actually brought out the challenges that are being faced in districts because of recentralizing this fund, this grant. Even minor repairs cannot be done. In the past, they could.
Olive Koechenga, Honorable Kaluya, Aoga, Nandara, then I come to Honorable Gumi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the committee for the good recommendations. I also have a few observations. One, Madam Speaker, when government decided to phase out health center tools, we are promised that the health center 3s were going to be made functional and equipped. But Madam Speaker, as other members said, I think we are doing under service to this country. Recently, I saw the petition coming to you, Madam Speaker, which were the whole of northern Uganda don't have a CT scan. And I think, Madam Speaker, this is a very serious problem to this country. Health service in this country is really, really very bad. So I think with the recommendations of the committee, we need to do something as a country to make sure that we do something on the on health service. Madam Speaker, I also noticed about these equipments that were given to districts, the road equipments. Madam Speaker, these equipments are packed on most of district headquarters. The reason is they don't have fuel. So we are given the equipments, but the budget was not increased for the fuel. So these equipments are just there doing nothing. So I think we need to do something also about that. I also wanted to talk about these KAIP roads. Madam Speaker, I think these roads, when they were constructed, there was no maintenance framework, because even the districts abandoned them because they are saying these are not their roads. They don't have the budget to maintain these roads. So the roads are really there but not being maintained. So I think it is also a problem that we need to look into. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I'm very proceed.